SAG voters are lazy and they're always hosting.
Okay. Luca, Giliberti, Zach Laws, thank you for joining me. Riley Chow, your fellow Gold Derby contributor for the slugfest about the upcoming SAG nominations in the television categories. The nominations will be announced on December 11th, and voting will take place from November 14th to December 8th. And the SAG Awards, they actually have a committee of a couple thousand voters who will be receiving screeners. They'll be watching things online. So it's not, the 100,000+ voters all voting on this award. It's a smaller committee. Still, we see them make decisions influenced more by what's, readily available to the masses. That's not really a good segue into my first bit, which is about Succession. Luca, you and I have it getting 0 nominations, just like last year. Zach, you have it in the winning position. So, Zach, why is it going to break through?
Well, because if there's one thing that we know about SAG voters, it's a couple of things. Number one, we know that they're sometimes late to the game, right? So they'll ignore a show like This Is Us or Marvelous Mrs. Maisel in their first seasons, and then in their second seasons, they'll give it wins, right? We also know that they like shows with big casts that have a lot of ensemble work. And Succession is a show with a giant cast, and it's filled with scene after scene after scene after scene of these big actors working together, right? So it just seems like a no-brainer to me when you also consider the fact that season 2 had an uptick in viewership, had an uptick in critical acclaim. It was a show that everybody was talking about. So, I mean, you're almost crazy not to have it, at least in your predictions. So why am I the odd man out here?
Well, I think my reason for not having it in my lineup is the competition. We have The Crown, which has been nominated twice. The Crown, which has, won for Claire Foy twice and for John Lithgow in the first season. Then we have Game of Thrones, which has been, nominated for almost every single season. It's, on its way out. It got 10 acting nominations at the Emmys. Then we have Big Little Lies, which is a cast, with A-list Hollywood stars, a cast that I'm sure a lot of actors would like to be a part of. Then we have Stranger Things, which is, a huge hit, has been a hit since the beginning. Won SAG Ensemble in the first season, had a strong third season in terms of its, performances overall. Then we have The Handmaid's Tale, which is still a show that is relevant, that won 2 acting Emmys, that will have the support from actors. Then we have This Is Us, the show that won, for the last 2 years. And I'm just not sure if we have these sustained favorites, if Succession will be able to break in just yet. I'm not ruling out a nomination completely. I think it can absolutely get in. And I know that the 0 acting nominations at the Emmys was for the first season, and the second season had been sight unseen when they marked off their ballots for the nominations. But the fact that it got 0 acting nominations and there being an overlap in membership, at least with the acting branch, that does worry me a bit. When we have all these other shows that have already been SAG favorites in the past.
Yeah, it'd be kind of weird for, Zach, you talk about how it's got this great cast, but it got the 0 acting nominations. I wonder if it's just the Silicon Valley of drama, where it does really well with certain branches, certain guilds, but it just can't connect to the actors either at the Academy or the Guild for whatever reason. I also feel like SAG, they do take a while with new shows, but I feel like they've been getting better about it, and it's also been less of a problem for HBO anyway. They found Westworld right away, they found Game of Thrones right away, they found Boardwalk Empire right away. And last year, on the drama side, they kind of had to reach to nominate shows that they had ignored for years, like The Americans and Better Call Saul. It didn't really seem that competitive. And then this year we've got all of our audience favorites back, like Stranger Things and Game of Thrones, This Is Us. We have all these big shows coming back. I don't see how there is going to be space for more of a niche show like Succession.
A niche show? Are you kidding? It's a show that everybody was talking about while it was airing. Like, oh my goodness, the niche show? You guys, come on. You're crazy. Like, no. Yes, it's very...
It doesn't have the ratings of these other shows.
It's true.
Yes, it's very, very competitive. You're right. Absolutely. But there's another thing that we know. It's not a late-breaking show. We know that they've seen it already. It's already wrapped up airing. So we don't have to worry about in the case of, this, let's just call it fakakta voting period that we have. We don't have to worry about whether or not they've actually seen it. I mean, it's on like a major network. It's something that has already aired. You guys, come on. I don't know how else to convince you of this. Are you crazy?
But my problem is that they have also seen Stranger Things Season 3, Handmaid's Tale Season 3, Big Little Lies Season 2, Game of Thrones, the final season they absolutely saw, and The Crown is the show that they will absolutely vote for given how it's performed so far. And those are already, and then This Is Us, of course, which is, a favorite. And those are already 6 shows. And then we have Succession trying to squeeze in. I just don't know which show to knock out. So which show would you knock out since you do have Succession in? You probably have either Handmaid's Tale and or Stranger Things out.
Yeah, I have both of them out. Yeah.
Right.
And look, I'm not saying that neither one of those are going to get nominated. It just feels to me like, one of the things that could benefit Succession, you talk about all these other shows that they love, maybe they all kind of gobble up spots from each other, right? I mean, like, is there anything new about Stranger Things? Is there anything new about The Handmaid's Tale? Is there anything particularly new about This Is Us? I know they go for this stuff over and over and over again, but, there's got to be some kind of newcomer, some kind of new variety. Like you guys, seriously, they're not just going to go for every single thing, the same old.
Wait, Zach, do you mean like last year when Succession was the new show and they didn't go for it and instead they reached back? They suddenly found Better Call Saul and The Americans?
It's the new show this year.
Ozark. Nobody
watched it last year. Everybody watched it this year. That's why it's the new show. Same thing with Fleabag. That's the new show, even though it was... Anyway, you're not having it. You won't convince me to take it out of my predictions. So,
well, I could. For me, the toss-up is really for the 5th slot, which for me, I think This Is Us, Big Little Lies, The Crown, and Game of Thrones are pretty locked. I wouldn't say locked, but I feel pretty safe. That they'll be not. I think they're safe bets. But my 5th slot, I have Stranger Things at the moment, just because it won in its first season and it's still this huge hit. And my personal choice would be The Handmaid's Tale. But I just don't know if, it hasn't won anything so far, even in its first season when we predicted both Elisabeth Moss and the ensemble to win, and then it didn't win anything. That gives me slight pause. Then again, it won 2 acting Emmys that it didn't have to win, meaning there was, competition. So I don't know what that 5th slot will go to. It could easily just go to Succession, but SAG, just the repeat nominees at SAG give me pause, and that's why I just can't put Succession in there.
Okay, what about Apple TV Plus? Are they a factor at SAG?
No, they're not.
I'll be a little more generous and say maybe. That's what I'll say. I mean, that's another thing where it's like, something like The Morning Show on paper seems like a SAG Ensemble nominee, but it is a first season show that just premiered a few days ago. That is an instance where I don't think that they'll have had enough time to actually watch it en masse. It's not the same thing as Succession this year, where they've had time to catch up with all of it. And yeah, I mean, in that case, it's like you do. I don't want to make it sound like I think that new shows are just going to dominate. I think Succession is the only newcomer that I have in my predictions right now. The rest of it, I have This Is Us. I have Big Little Lies. I have Game of Thrones, and I have The Crown, right? Even though technically that is a brand new cast, so it kind of straddles the line there. But there is a limit to like how much new stuff will get into SAG Ensemble.
Right. Or go ahead, Riley.
Oh, no, you go.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think, I think that's the main problem with any Apple TV Plus shows, specifically the morning shows, that people won't have enough time to watch it. I mean, the first show was aired on November 1st. It released on November 1st, and voting starts, in just not even 3 weeks. I believe it's in 2 weeks even. And voters, I don't think they'll have enough time to watch everything. And there are people out there who don't know that Apple TV Plus, how it works, and that it's there yet. And I think the only person who can survive this is Jennifer Aniston, just because she's Jennifer Aniston and she's loved by her peers. And if you were anywhere on the internet in the last 2 weeks, she was everywhere. But otherwise, I don't see the show getting any nominations. And I also don't see Watchmen getting in for Regina King or the show itself, because again, it's just now premiered in October, end of October, and it's a show that's still airing, and I don't know if voters have watched it yet. So that's why I think they will just go back to old favorites, and then usually when a show has in its second season, shows like the morning show will definitely have a much better chance.
Yeah, it's just too late. I think its only chance is Jennifer Aniston. I was kind of thinking of putting her in just because it's the kind of role that SAG voters should love. But then I went to her category, and we could get double The Crown. We could get double Killing Eve. We could get, quadruple Big Little Lies. There's just no space.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the thing, too, with, as much as I love Watchmen and as much as I love Regina King in Watchmen, let's remember, SAG TV does not have supporting categories. So that's why you do have all of these doubling up of shows like Big Little Lies or The Crown, just cannibalizing all the spots. And, because it is a brand new show, and it still hasn't even aired all of its first season yet, Regina King, I think, will have to wait until next year to really break through for this. And the same could be true of Jennifer Aniston, quite frankly. Even though she is getting some of the best reviews of her career for her performance in this show, they're not always, like I've said ad nauseum, it takes them a little bit of time to get around to brand new shows.
And referring to the Killing Eve women, I'm not sure what to do, because it seems, realistic to put Jodie Comer in there just because, she has all this momentum from her Emmy win. But it's not, typical of SAG to just drop Sandra Oh, who's been a favorite there for a very long time since her, days on Grey's Anatomy. And I'm wondering if both of them get in. Do they both get shut out? And right now I just have Jodie Comer in, but I don't feel very confident about that at all. Because again, as I said, Sandra Oh just won last year and she is a SAG favorite. So maybe they don't drop her that quickly. And then we also have Elisabeth Moss everywhere this year. She was in 4 different movies. She, was 13 episodes of The Handmaid's Tale again, who's never won an individual SAG award. So I'm wondering if she can still make it in this year, or if The Handmaid's Tale is just going to be dropped completely.
You mentioned Sandra Oh being a SAG favorite, and she did win for the first season of Grey's Anatomy, but then she was dropped the second year, and Chandra Wilson actually won in her place. So we could see the same thing happen with Jodie Comer. But now I want to jump over to comedy to talk about another fake news show, which is Fleabag. My upset prediction is that Andrew Scott is actually going to win Best Comedy Actor even though he wasn't even nominated at the Emmys. I think the Emmys was just a timing thing, since Fleabag came out at the end of that eligibility cycle and it didn't have the necessary visibility. I feel like at this point people have seen it, and it's going to be a little bit like when Alexander Skarsgård won for Big Little Lies on the limited side, even though that category normally goes to the older veteran movie stars like Robert De Niro. But Big Little Lies happened to be a show that voters actually cared about. I feel like people actually care about Fleabag, and that'll result in this win that's kind of uncharacteristic of the category and the SAG Awards.
I certainly have him getting in to the TV comedy actor category. I also have Fleabag winning for ensemble and for Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So it's certainly possible that he could just get swept along in there, you know, if they really do love this show. At the same time, I think that, you know, they could just very easily give another award to Bill Hader, you know, the man who continues to win prizes for Barry. I think it really is probably between those two. I don't know. I mean, I don't see them going with like Michael Douglas or Ted Danson, or, you know, maybe they'll just repeat with Tony Shalhoub again. Who knows?
Yeah, that's where I'm currently at. I think they might just give it to Tony Shalhoub again. Just, you know, he's fresh off his Emmy win, and I think he benefited from vote splitting last year. Because we had 2 Barry actors and 2 Kaminsky Method actors nominated, which I don't think will happen this year because the field is a bit more crowded. But I think Andrew Scott would be a great nominee and a great winner. I don't know how you reward Fleabag season 2 and don't nominate him like at the Emmys.
The Emmys sure found a way. So.
It's quite shocking to me considering they, you know, nominated Sean Clifford and Olivia Colman and both guest actresses, and then he's, you know, practically the only one who didn't make it. But he's become such a favorite over the last few months, ever since second season aired. I think he can definitely get nominated both here and at the Globes. I don't know if I could, you know, put him in the winning position yet, because I would need to see how Fleabag performs overall. But it's a very interesting prediction. I'm actually more curious here to see how The Politician does, because, you know, it is a bunch of actors that everyone loves, you know, like Jessica Lange, and it's, you know, Ryan Murphy, and it's Netflix, and it's a show that aired in September, so voters might have had time to watch it, but I don't know if it's, you know, stuck the landing enough to actually make it into the comedy series lineup anywhere in any category.
Yeah, those SAG voters, they love Netflix. On the movie and limited side, you know, I made sure to put in Helen Mirren since they love their old movie stars. I got Fosse Verdon in there. I got Jared Harris for Chernobyl because it won 10 Emmys. And then the other 6 slots I gave all to Netflix for various shows that, you know, maybe people watched, maybe they didn't.
And well, speaking of the limited actress side, I actually think people are well, I'm not underestimating. I think they might be in our top 5, but Joey King and Patricia Arquette for The Act, I think, are 2 people that can absolutely get nominated. It's a performance they have most likely seen. It's 2 performances that were nominated at the Emmys. One of them won. Patricia Arquette, you know, pulled off an upset over Patricia Clarkson. And I think both of them will be nominated. I agree with Riley. I also have Netflix taking up a bunch of slots. I have both unbelievable actresses getting nominated here in lead. And of course I have When They See Us getting Jarrell Jerome in. I'm not sure if someone like Michael K. Williams could maybe, you know, be nominated in the drama actor category alongside Jarrell Jerome, just because he's, you know, such a industry vet, and When They See Us is such an actors, you know, type of show, which was very much embraced by the actors branch at the Emmys. And that category anyway, I think there are 4 people who seem quite secure, and then the 5th slot is just up for grabs. So I'm curious to see who fills that slot.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, just sort of fill your slots with Netflix shows. I do agree with you, Luca. I think that Joey King and Patricia Arquette are formidable because it is, they are transformative performances, and Patricia Arquette just won a SAG Award last year for a similar type of role in Escape at Dannemora, and Joey King, the same kind of thing. It's a widely praised transformational role, but I mean, it will be interesting to see because we have seen in the past their love for Netflix. Just how many shows and performances they're going to get in. I mean, you talk about like repeat contenders. We could just as easily see Glow return for ensemble. We can just as easily see the Kaminsky Method return for ensemble. Those shows are, even if they don't get nominated at the Emmys, they were beloved by SAG at the very least.
And don't be surprised if you see Laura Linney in Limited Actress for Tales of the City, which is a show that came out sometime earlier this year, and just seems like it was well received. It got middling reviews, but I think audiences actually liked it, and it would be such a SAG thing to do, just to nominate someone from a Netflix series that aired sometime early in the year, with Laura Linney as a lead, and they love her. They nominated her for Ozark twice. So I think that's someone who could just surprise, because I'm not sold on Helen Mirren yet, even though she's a favorite. Catherine the Great did not blow up in any way. It's airing right now. I feel like there's not a lot of buzz at all. Yeah, exactly.
No, I found that with a few shows, like the Kaminsky Method came back, and I was like, really, it did? Silicon Valley, it's airing its final season right now. Mr. Robot, its final season, it's been airing for the last month or something. He just won an Oscar. He should be a contender here, Rami Malek. So yeah, it's a lot of these shows, just who knows if they're even on. Apparently they are. And yeah, Laura Linney plus Netflix, totally. I have her, what is the act?
Yeah.
So would forget, it was only just a few months ago we were talking about that show.
Do you have neither Arquette and, oh, wow. Do you have the Unbelievable Gals in, or?
Yeah, Netflix.
Okay. Netflix, yeah. At least that.
And that's why I have Schitt's Creek coming over on the comedy side. I feel like that's a popular hit. And I don't know about individual nominations. I feel like there's a lot of competition, but I think people like that ensemble.
Well, then, don't discount The Good Place then, too, for the same reason. That's a show that was discovered on Netflix, and I think that, probably owes its big boon in Emmy nominations this past year to the fact that people discovered it on there, if not necessarily watching it live on NBC.
Do you guys have Veep in your lineups? Because I have put it in and then taken it back out, and then I think Julia is getting in, but the ensemble, I just past Fleabag, Barry, and Maisel, I'm not quite sure who to put into ensemble. I think Schitt's Creek is definitely something I'll put in, but then I'll have to make room for Catherine O'Hara, because I don't see how Schitt's Creek just gets an ensemble nomination and no acting nomination. I know the Americans did it last year, but again, comedy actress is such a crowded field because we have supporting and lead all combined in one category, and we could, have double Maisel again, and we could have Dead to Me, which I think is a show that might do really well here with Christina Applegate and maybe even Linda Cardellini. So it's a very interesting field. It's much more competitive than I thought it would be.
Yeah,
I think Julia.
You go ahead.
No. I was just to make a brief point. I think Julia will get in again, and I think that Veep has been a consistent player in the ensemble category for most of its run. It just won 2 years ago, so I have it currently getting in for that and Julia. But that's what I'll say about that.
Yeah, with SAG, I try to be as backwards as possible. I try not to have progressive nominations. These are the same people who awarded Alec Baldwin 7 times. Then they still nominated him an 8th time for 5 hanging episodes. So yeah, I think Veep will come back, especially since it won last time. SAG, they awarded Downton Abbey, and then they moved over to Breaking Bad. And when Breaking Bad was gone, then they went back to Downton Abbey 2 more times. They went for William H. Macy, then for like the 7th season of Shameless, once that moved over to the comedy side. And then Jeffrey Tambor came in for Transparent, and then Transparent wasn't cool. And instead of finding something new, they just went back to William H. Macy. So I'm trying to predict old shows and not anything cool unless it's undeniable, like Fleabag.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's jumping to another category again, but I think someone we should definitely look out for here is Aaron Paul for El Camino in Limited Actor, because, it's Netflix again, and it's Aaron Paul, who's, very much adored by his peers and very well respected. And I feel like that last slot could definitely go to him. I also have Mahershala Ali in here because I think he's absolutely a SAG favorite. He won for Moonlight after he didn't win the Globe for it. Of course, he went on to win for Green Book. And I think his performance in True Detective is something that is kind of, is not in the conversation anymore, but I think it's something that will get him nominated here. I still think that award is going to Jarrell Jerome, and I'm not going to even think about it twice. But in terms of nominations, I think those 2 are definitely in as well.
All right, so please log on to Gold Derby to make your own SAG predictions. You can change your predictions up until nominations are announced on December 11th. You can predict the Film Awards as well and the Oscars, and we'll be talking about, the nominations next month.